Myth Wukong is the game you need to have on your radar. After its Unreal Engine demo blew up on the internet, it's become the go-to game to bring up in conversation for a couple of reasons. Number one, there is an unacceptable lack of games that explore Asian mythology, and Black Myth Wukong delves into one of the richest Chinese stories of them all, that of the journey to the West. And number two, God, it looks good. From attacking animations to snow physics to the sheer range of things you can do in the game, Black Myth Wukong has shown off highly polished slices of the game, and it's got people thirsty as heck. So, for those of you who want to know more about Black Myth Wukong, I am here. I'm going to do my best with the pronunciation of the Chinese names in this script, so my apologies if I'm not entirely on point, but I'd like to say a big thank you to Avenue X for her translation of Black Myth Wukong's dialogue, which helped greatly with this script. Anyway, from the story potentially having one hell of a twist to the mechanics, here's 28 things you, yeah you, I see you, need to know about Black Myth Wukong. First things first, Black Myth Wukong does not currently have a release date. It's not coming out in 2023 as far as the studio know, so if you see that date floating around, it's best to ignore it. Wouldn't want to get your hopes up unfairly after all. Currently, Black Myth Wukong is in pre-alpha, so we're looking at multiple years before it comes out. Do with that information what you will. Black Myth Wukong is coming out on PC and console and potentially cloud gaming platforms that are capable of running the game smoothly. Journey to the West, which Black Myth Wukong is based on, is a 16th century Chinese tale about the Monkey King Sun Wukong, as he travels to attain godhood from the Buddha with his master. Now, you'd think that Black Myth Wukong is about Sun Wukong, but there are theories that it's not actually about him. Instead, some think that in these gameplay demos you're actually playing either his corporeal body, which he left behind after attaining godhood, or someone called the Six-Eared Macaque, who is, in effect, imitating Sun Wukong. This staff with the glowing Chinese characters indicates that its wielder is the real Sun Wukong, as only the real Sun Wukong would have the Hui Jingu Bon. Listen carefully to what the enemies are saying when the monkey moves past them in the gameplay. Translations that I found in the comments to YouTube videos say that these characters are saying things like, "You really look like him," or "another monkey," indicating that they've heard of Sun Wukong and maybe even seen him and somehow lived to tell the tale. Later on in one of the demos, this earth deity says similar, so similar, again indicating that the player character at this point in the game is the spitting image of someone else, potentially the real Sun Wukong. For the rest of the video, I'm going to call the player character the monkey just to avoid any confusion. This character is a caretaker of Subheaven, one of the locations you'll be visiting. There are also scenes of what appears to be the true Sun Wukong fighting in the Heavenly Realm, which happens in Journey to the West, so prepare to be journeying between realms during the game. The UI goes through a couple of changes across the two demos and the Year of the Ox gameplay slice. It's not a trailer, it's to commemorate the end of the Year of the Mouse and the beginning of the Year of the Ox. Look at the latest demo and you can see there's sections for health, the monkey's special abilities and stamina, as well as charges next to his stance that seem to get charged up as you fight enemies. These charges are used to trigger special, more powerful attacks that the monkey has, like this slash against this dragon, or a flurry of attacks. Sun Wukong is able to transform into 72 different forms, and the monkey player character can also transform into various things too. We haven't seen all 72 forms, and I'd guess that we're unlikely to at this point, but there are a handful that have been teased so far. A hulking skull boulder that can deflect all damage, the golden cicada for sneaking, a powerful tank-like ape, and finally a bat. An extra added quirk awaits when it comes to transformations too. Turning into enemies you've beaten is a pretty sweet deal, isn't it? Defeat a certain type of enemy, and in some cases you gain the ability to turn into them, once you take their weapon, that is. Like with the cicada and bat form, you are limited to a certain amount of time when you're in their form, as some of these enemies are really powerful, like this wolf teacher and his flaming weapon. This bit here might look a bit odd if you don't know one of Zoe Wukong's tricks that he uses in Journey to the West. Our monkey has the same power as Zoe Wukong to shrink things, and, being the innovative chap he is, he stores them in his ear, as unlike a satchel or pouch, you can't exactly lose your ear, can you? Not unless someone with a knife is eyeing it up, that is. One of the monkey's abilities is also one from Journey to the West. He can freeze opponents in their path. This isn't like cold freezing, more like stopping time for them. And in Black Myth Wukong, it's a rechargeable ability on the left that's mighty powerful indeed, managing to even stop the wolf boss. It doesn't last that long though, so it looks like it will mainly be useful in stopping yourself from getting KO'd by a single strike, or giving yourself a little bit of breathing room while you put some distance between yourself and your foe. In the same kind of line, you have the monkey's shield ability, which temporarily makes him indestructible and impervious to attacks. It's the top icon in the UI, and like the freeze power, has to recharge before you can use it again. Once again, this is an ability from Journey to the West, and unsurprisingly, this is by no means the last of the references to that tale. A nifty little detail that doesn't really need that much explaining is that there are destructible environments in Black Myth Wukong. Neat. I've already gone over the different forms we know of so far that our monkey pal can turn into, but let me spend a bit more time on the golden cicada. It looks like this is the form you want to use if you need to sneak past enemies, but it's not completely undetectable. At this moment here, you can hear the Earth deity telling you to wait a second, or this big lad will spot you. So while you might be able to pull one over on these minions who are, according to Avenue X's translation, apparently scared of being eaten by a bear demon, who I will get onto later, the more powerful enemies are much harder to fool. Just a warning, you will want to manage that timer carefully. This folk is an earth deity, and that head of his resembles a radish for that very reason. Earth deities are often found near mountain temples and come up from the earth itself in tales like Journey to the West, so he's definitely one of them. If you translate what he's saying, he's trying to warn our monkey character about the wolf demon in the temple ahead, while also remarking that you look so similar to a monkey that's come before. Again, indicating that you might not be Zoe Wukong, but an imitator, or his old body on a journey of its own. Honestly, this is probably my favourite little detail. The enemies have their own personalities which come through in your duels with them. Our big, fluffy wolf demon licks its paw when it lands on this destructible structure, which is oddly endearing, and this belching, farting foe fakes surrender in order to catch you off guard. I really hope more enemies have these little quirks, as it makes them so much more than just another enemy to beat, don't you think? Yet another one of Zoe Wukong's iconic abilities is this one right here, where he makes clones out of strands of his hair to help fight the wolf demon. It's the bottom ability and needs time to recharge like his other powers, but these clones won't stick around for long. Although they swarm enemies and give you space to catch your breath, they are fairly weak and it doesn't take much to get rid of them. A couple of locations flashed up near the end of one of the game demos, and eagle-eyed YouTube viewers spotted where they might be. This looks like the Thunderclap Monastery, and this is potentially the Flaming Mountains, both of which are well-known locations in the Journey to the West and have their own chapters dedicated to them. The main area this demo takes place in is Blackwind Mountain, which is ruled by the bear demon you can see briefly right here. Headaches are no fun, as our monkey knows all too well right here when it looks like he's experiencing a rather unpleasant spell. Long story short, a crown was put on the Monkey King's head because he loves getting into trouble and isn't very good at following orders, which is major shame. And then his master was taught a spell that shrinks the crown, putting Zoe Wukong in intense pain as punishment for not obeying the master's rules. Cruel. Pretty damn cruel. This moment in the demo then implies that the same thing is going to happen to our monkey character, but whether that proves that he's Sun Wukong or not, we'll just have to wait and see. On Game Science's website, the people who are making Black Myth Wukong, they do say that there might be in-game purchases, but that doesn't mean you can pay to become more powerful. Right, these are some of the most famous characters from the book that appear in the demo. The 4 heavenly kings of the north, south, east and west. In this scene, Sun Wukong, and this is almost definitely Sun Wukong as he's in heavenly armour, is defeating the armies of the 4 heavenly kings, which, surprise surprise, is in Journey to the West when he starts to wreak havoc in heaven. The Monkey King doesn't always get around on foot because, to be frank, he's too powerful for that. Instead, he uses his cloud to get him across vast distances, which you can see right here. Let's go back to Ri Jingu Bong, Sun Wukong's staff. It can grow and shrink at Sun Wukong's will, and there's a ton of ways it can be used in combat. Deflecting projectiles, suspending you above dangerous ground, sweeping an entire army off its feet, jumping attacks from the air, being thrown like a boomerang, charging up to 3 separate levels right here. There's loads of different attacks you can do with the staff. And there's an extra component to combat too. Just like in Ghost of Tsushima, the monkey has to change his stance, which you can see in the bottom corner here, to get the most out of his staff. In one stance, he holds the staff behind his back, in another stance, the staff is in front of him, and in a final stance, he uses it to thrust forward. There might be more that I've missed, but it looks like to get certain attacks, you have to be in the right stance first, with each stance having its own moveset. Nifty. Right. The yellow eyebrowed demon is someone you have to know about. He's probably this guy here, and you should be suspicious as hell of him. The yellow eyebrowed demon used to be an attendant to the Buddha, but he basically decided to create his own minor heaven realm to rule over because he wants to be the one in power. He is not good news. A bit of a trickster, he's not above using dirty tricks to fool Sun Wukong either. Like pretending to be the Buddha, which is probably what he's doing right here, with these chattering minions also disguising themselves as Buddha's followers. Some suspect that this giant golden symbol is one of his stolen weapons, which, in Journey to the West, he imprisons Sun Wukong in. The yellow eyebrowed demon is one slippery bastard, and could be one of the main antagonists in Black Myth Wukong. Now, I'm not going to make the comparison everyone loves making when it comes to precise, unforgiving combat and clearly telegraphed attacks. I'm not. I can resist the urge. However, all that is true of Black Myth Wukong. There are precious few moments where you can land an attack on the stronger foes especially, so you'll need to look for openings and use your powers wisely as, once they're gone, they do take quite a while to charge up again. Help is at hand if you're quick enough with your fingers, as you can negate damage from the odd attack by dashing at exactly the right time, leaving an imprint of yourself behind to show you've done it correctly. For all intents and purposes, this is basically an altered parry system as it requires precise timing, but pull it off and it builds up points in your special moves meter, which you can see right here and is pretty self-explanatory. Game Science has said in the FAQs on its website that while Black Myth Wukong is focused on solid single-player content, there could be support for online co-op mode in the future. With the clones that the monkey and Sun Wukong can make out of their hair, one of you could be playing as a clone, hence the identical abilities. As well as having the shield ability and the freeze time ability, another skill from the Journey to the West is in Black Myth Wukong, Sun Wukong's power of protection, where he can draw a protective ring of fire. It won't last forever in the game, but it is a great way to heal without the risk of getting hurt in the process. Or worse, have an enemy interrupt your heal with an attack. Not ideal. Finally, this very large bear is the bear demon who rules over the Blackwind Mountain and is a good friend of the wolf demon fought in one of the demos. Looks like the monkey has already gotten on his bad side, possibly because he beat the crap out of his canine friend. Oops. And that's 28 things you need to know about Black Myth Wukong. If you enjoyed the video, thanks very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Eurogamer for more videos about video games, as we have a new one out every single day. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go. So remember to stay hydrated, folks, and I'll see you next time.